would take away from its credibility. So, I commend you for the formation of the Digital Media Standards Council. It is an initiative that is actually formed and backed by the stakeholders themselves. And because it is a non-governmental agency, it enjoys the trust and the credibility of the stakeholders themselves and by society as a whole. Now, when do you intend to finish your Code of Ethics and Standards?
And, I don't want to put ourselves in very bad, I would say about a month or two perhaps.
Yes. And do you intend to indicate your functions there? May I ask, Mr. Chair, Ms. Ubaldo, to briefly describe to us the functions of the Digital Media Standards Council, Coalition?
Well, number one, of course, it has a code of ethics. So it has to be values driven, and in a way, just functions wise.
Would you be, Mr. Chair, carrying out fact-checking?
Yes, so it has to be like the go-to when it comes to fact-checking.
Yes.
So that's the number one there. I mean,
Will you be doing motu proprio fact-checking?
definitely. So that's the reason why it's a coalition. So it can't be done by just one entity. So
When I say motu proprio, that means you'll be watching over content creation as a whole without, because normally my suggestion is that if you do fact-checking, there should be a complainant for you to act. Because given the volume of content that is produced over social media, I do not think you will have the capacity, unless, of course, you do have that capacity.
if I may answer by experience, so in ASC, our number one rule is the number one the number one way, the fastest way you know that there's something wrong out there is that there is a complaint. So normally, if it's an ad that says something, number one, number two, whatever, it's always the other brand that will say that's not true. So yes, there has to be a complaint.
Okay, so it's not motu proprio. Yes, Mr. Chair, Ms. Halandoni of the Global AI Council would like to expound on what Ms. Ubaldo said.
I
May
just
she
want
be
to
allowed?
support. May I be allowed to
Yeah,
support?
you are recognized, Ms. Alandani. Go
Thank
ahead.
you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to support Ms. Ayobalde because at this moment we recognize the need for this possibly self-regulating organization. However, as we convene, there are a lot of things that we do need to systematize as an organization. We are very open to members. We are agnostic. However, the first thing that we need to finish is really the code of ethics. And in this governance or self-governance and how we define how to govern ourselves is our paramount mission right now. How to establish our policies, our strategies, our accountabilities, and how to do oversight. So the question in this line of questioning, we would like to make sure that we answer this correctly. Self-regulating organizations are not easy to create nor to establish. However, we are taking up this challenge. And yes, the number one way for us to really support such in a beginning way is when there are complaints. So just becoming an organization where these complaints can be sent and filtered is already, I think, something that's important. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would like to underscore the function of fact-checking that the Digital Media Standards Council intends to carry out. This is very important because the only way that we can actually administer justice to those who are victimized by fake news is the taking down or the flagging of their content as fake. Now, the Digital Council, the Digital Media Standards Council, per se, would be powerless if there is no bill or piece of legislation that would actually require the social media platforms to adhere to whatever findings you may come up with. It is in this line that this representation has authored House Bill 11515, which seeks to recognize the Digital Media Standards Council and which actually regulates social media platforms. And by social media platforms, for the information of those who may not understand it and are following us directly via social media. Ang ibig sabihin po ng social media platforms, yung Facebook, ang Twitter, ang Instagram, yung Meta, at iba-iba pang platforms, and TikTok as well. Kung mapapansin po ninyo sa nakaraang mga TRICOM meetings, natuklasan natin na mayroon pong legal vacuum when it comes to the regulation of social media platforms. In fact, this is the source of our problems. Nung ini-interview po natin ang Meta, nakita po natin na iba ang kanilang community guidelines sa ibang social media platforms. Yung iba nagfa-fact check, yung iba hindi. Yung iba, very, very careful, very, very sensitive, very, very correct. Yung iba, mas lenient. So, in this line, this representation seeks to address this problem by actually regulating social media platforms. And why do I insist on regulating social media platforms rather than legislating the formation of a government agency? Because as I had said in previous TRICOM meetings, the establishment of a government watchdog agency over content creation reeks of censorship, and such a law may be questioned before the Supreme Court and by default be deemed as unconstitutional, because we are dealing with a basic right, which is the freedom of speech. And the government, if that judicial process continues, would be required to prove that it indeed has a compelling reason and that such a formation of a government agency is the least restrictive means, which I doubt it is. So, sa aking pong panukalang batas, Mr. Chair, there are 4 things that we require social media platforms that I think would solve ang ating mga problema. Number 1, we require the social media platforms to register their company here in the Philippines and create a legal entity in our country. By that way, they will be subject to Philippine legislation. Kailangan may presensya sila dito para hindi na tayo nangahagilap pag kailangan natin ng explanation sa kanila. Number 2, we will require the social media platforms to carry a registry of accounts. Behind every social media account, there should be a real person. Para ho naiiwasan natin yung mga bots at saka mga troll farms. Of course, subject to data privacy and protection laws. Mahalaga yan. And number 3, kinakailangan po natin obligahan ang mga social media platforms to adhere to the findings of the Digital Media Standards Council of the Philippines. Pag nakapag-fact check na kayo at natuklasan nyo ang isang piece of information is fake, walang basihan, by law, kinakailangan na mga social media platforms i-take down yung piece of information na yan. Of course, in my understanding, may kakayahan kayo na mag-fact check in a short period of time because mahalaga po, time is of the essence in combating fake news. Pag humaba po ang proseso, the damage shall already have been done. And finally, of course, this is optional, maybe for the social media platforms to report their income or not, or contribute to the operational expenses of the Digital Media Standards Council. Kasi every kind of operation needs funding. And since your coalition is non-governmental, you cannot receive funding from the government. Mr. Chair, I would like to pinpoint